Well, there, I finally found what was mingling with the smell of wood chips in here. I'm including this segment here so you can get a chuckle at how woefully inadequate my disc sander is. It's kind of a to-do thing, or I'm going to make a bigger one. We've got the edges of the seat sanded up, so now we want to carve the bottom to shape it from the bottom up. You're going to draw a line around the perimeter, and you kind of choose it arbitrarily, but you just eyeball where you want it to come up to, and go about like that, and then just trace it all the way around like this. In this part here, we get into some old-fashioned whittling. You put a fresh edge on your draw knife and clamp it to the table, and you always want to make sure you're either pulling across the grain or cutting out of the grain. You never want to be cutting into the grain, or it's going to want to act like a splitting wedge on you. But you just work your way up to your line, give it kind of an angle. That way it makes the seat blank appear thinner when viewed from when the chair is standing on the floor. When you walk through the room, it looks like a thin seat. While watching this video, it occurs to me I could do well to make myself some bench dogs and hold that onto the table a little bit better. Seems like I'm always getting a long list of things I need to make for the shop. Later on, we're going to tackle this with a file and then some sandpaper. But this part is just kind of relaxing and fun to do and to watch, I suppose. So our tenon ends are nice and dry, and now we can give them their final sizing. There's a quick way to do it. Rather than using calipers, you can just use a crescent wrench, because it's not going to creep on you, and it'll give it to you precisely, and you can follow it along as you cut. I'm using this scraper because it's almost as wide as the wrench itself. When you set it up in your lathe, put your lathe on its slowest speed, because you'll see it's got some wobble to it, and that's a result of when it drying it did warp slightly. That's why we did all our turning in the beginning, and since the tenon end is close to the spinning chuck end, it's not going to wobble that much down here. So we'll just work along and do the sizing, and I'll see if the camera can stay out of my way while I'm trying to do this. We turn the spindle around in the lathe, and we're cutting the tenon in the top end of it, 1/2 inch. And once we got that down to size, we can just turn the top end of it down to the same diameter as the tenon. So if you're making a Windsor chair without using plans, with drawing up the plans as you go, the way that you size the curvature of the comb is to place your spindles and spokes into the seat and see where they stick out on top. And from there, you're going to measure the distance between the two tenons on either end, and then you're going to draw a straight line between these and measure the distance from the spoke to your straight line between these two, and that'll show you how to draw your curvature. So just to give you a better idea of how we size the curve of our seat back. You got the two large spindles on either side, and you're going to measure the distance between either of them. In this case, it's about 18 inches. And then you're going to take the middle spoke and measure the distance from this straight line to the spoke, this distance here. And that will give you the chord of a circle, and then you can calculate the radius of your circle.